I'm on a journey to get 100 platinum trophies on PlayStation, and my next game I'm going for is Dying Light the Beast. Back in 2022, I played Dying Light 2 on the channel when I was first doing like playthroughs, but it was probably the last time I played any of the Dying Light games, and I actually enjoy the series a lot, so I was pretty excited to get back into the series and do another video on it. I also was really excited when I saw the announcement of the game and that you could play Kyle Crane again, and if you don't know anything about this series, he was the main character of the first game. Also, apparently this game is set directly after the events of Dying Light 2, which the time gap between the second game and the first is supposed to be like 20 years or something, if I'm not mistaken. So my biggest hope for this game was to also see Aiden Caldwell, who was the main protagonist in the second game, and he was one of my favorite characters in the universe too. Anyways, this game has a total of 31 trophies and can be done pretty easily in about 60 to 70 hours, and thankfully there are no missable trophies and can be pretty easy to get according to the PowerPix website. Now I'm going to warn you now that there will be spoilers in this video, so if you don't want to be spoiled yet, then go ahead and leave a like on the video and come back later. With all that said, let's jump right into the game. Like I said earlier, where this game takes directly after Dying Light 2, we're in the year 2036, and it follows with the canon ending with the DLC, I guess, of the first game where Kyle Crane gets infected by a cult and ended up escaping, and that was like the true ending of the game. We learned that Kyle was on the run for about 7 years before he was caught by the GRE, who is a secret organization who poses as the good guys to the world, but is actually the ones that created the virus and started this whole apocalypse and was weaponized the virus. After getting caught, we find out that he was experimented on for 13 years and still somehow kept on fighting to survive, because the one thing he wants to do the most before dying is to kill the one that's behind all this. When we start inside the facility, Kyle is being experimented on alongside another person infected like us. We can't see who it is, but shortly after, he is injected with something by someone that doesn't look like one of the regular scientists, and this turns out to be the leader of the experiments, who calls himself the Baron. The Baron says he won't be needing Kyle anymore as he's found a new test subject, so he plans to kill us, but before the scientists were able to do that, they were still experimenting on the other guy when that guy turned volatile. If you're new to the series, volatiles are basically a cracked out version of the regular infected and just have enhanced strength, speed, and senses. But the other guy ended up killing the scientists and escaping. While that was going on, our restraints were undone and Kyle was able to be free, but was still under the effect of the drugs, so we had to crawl. When Kyle is crawling, he hears a voice on one of the soldiers' radios, so we head over to grab the radio and talk to that person. The person on the radio turned out to be a woman named Olivia, and she's telling Kyle that this is his chance to escape while everyone is distracted by the other guy causing havoc in the facility. So we go through the lab to find something that will help wear off the drugs and be able to walk again. And then after that we start working our way out. At one point, Olivia tells us that we have to go to the place where they keep the infected locked up. But as we were making our way through the elevator at the end, this is when the infected started to break through the glass, and when we got to the elevator, there were so many infected attacking that it set off Kyle's enraged mode, where he goes volatile too for a short time, and he proceeds just to take out all the infected. Shortly after the elevator arrives and we make our way up, as we were going up the elevator, they shut it down and make the whole lab go into a full lockdown mode. And this is when Olivia says it's time for her to go, and Kyle's on his own now, so we have to climb our way to the top, and when we get there, we see that we are near the exit, but the doors are closing due to the lockdown, so we have to hurry and run out and barely make it in the nick of time. When we get out of the lab, we were able to get in contact with Olivia again. While they are talking, Kyle asks where he is, and this is where we find out that Kyle is still in Europe in a small town called Castor Woods. Shortly after, Olivia tells Kyle that he needs to get out of there since there are infected all around, so she tells Kyle to meet up with her at a nearby monastery. After their talk, we get our first trophy in the game for escaping the bunker lab. When we get to the monastery, Olivia says we need to power up the place and close the doors to turn this place into a safe zone. This is basically the tutorial for safe zones, as we will be doing this a lot more later in the game. Once we finally get the place secured though, we finally meet with Olivia, who turns out to be one of the scientists forced into the project by the Baron and wants to use Kyle's abilities to get out of the Castor Woods, as the Baron rules the whole city. Kyle, on the other hand, has a different idea of what to do, and that is to get his revenge for the last 13 years, which is definitely understandable. Olivia tells Kyle that he needs to build back up his health, recruit allies, and also to stock up on equipment and weapons. For Kyle to build his health back up, he needs GSP, which is a biocatalyst that will enhance his health. The Baron was creating this in the lab and using it to experiment on different monsters that are called chimeras. He tested them out in the wild, which we can harvest the GSP from these chimeras for Kyle. Right on cue though, a chimera shows up at the monastery, so we get thrown into a boss fight with that chimera. Each one of these chimeras will have a different different mutation and look, and the first one we fight is called the Reaper, which looks like one of the Baron's soldiers that had a bad mutation and ended up with a blade as an arm, which is honestly kinda sick. After going into Kyle's beast mode, we were able to defeat the Chimera, and we got a trophy for killing our first one. With the Chimera killed, Olivia pulls up, and before we can start talking about extracting the GSP, Kyle begins to feel pain and almost loses consciousness. So Olivia had to hurry with her extraction tool to grab the GSP and then use one of the vials on Kyle to get him stable again, but Kyle still passes out. Shortly after, Olivia gets Kyle back inside, and when he wakes up, Olivia explains what the GSP does to him and that each one of these Chimera's GSP will boost his health in a different way. This is where the game introduces the skill tree, and one of the trees is for his beast mode, which has different abilities for Kyle to use in that mode, but we'll talk about that tree a little bit later on as it's for one of the trophies. After they are done talking about the Chimeras, Olivia told Kyle that she brought him some clothes, which this teaches us about the stash, which is a bag, and we find it at just about every safe zone. Shortly after, we get another tutorial for the workbench, and we will be needing to use this a lot throughout the game, but especially for the end game as there's a trophy tied to this, but I'll explain that a little bit later. But just know that we can craft weapons and equipment, but we can also upgrade the tier of the equipment with this bench. Kyle's next plan is to start recruiting some allies, which Olivia directs him towards the city, and see if there are any survivors there, and this kicks off our next mission. While we were heading towards the town, Olivia also told us about how she saw smoke from a nearby building, so I went over there to go check first, and when I showed up, there was a bunch of infected around, so I had to clear them out before I could make my way inside. Inside the cabin was one survivor, and he told Kyle that he had been kicked out by the group in the town hall of the city for not following the rules. When we tried to recruit him, he declines as he prefers to be out on his own from now on, so we respect his wishes. After we head to the city, we hear a distress call from that group that is in the town hall, so we head over there to see what's up. When we arrive, we see that the dead are trying to break through the front gates that protect the door to the town hall, and now we have to clear them out as well before we can head inside. Inside, we see that the entire first floor was taken over by the infected, and we have to clear them out to look for any survivors after. But after we clear the zombies, another Chimera shows up and just jumps down from one of the upper floors of the town hall. And this one is called Defect, but I can best compare this to one of the Berserks from Gears of War, but this one isn't really blind. We have to go through another boss fight, and once we kill the Chimera, we hurry and collect the GSP so that Kyle can use it on him before meeting up with the survivors. Once we find them, we meet Jacob, who is in charge while their leader, who they call Sheriff, was trying to figure out a way to get the power back on for the town hall before it hits nighttime, as the place is equipped with UV lights that protect them from the infected at nighttime. Kyle now has to go help the sheriff, so we had to climb up to the top of the building to find her, and then find out the best way for us to get the power back on, which has me going to a different building to connect a cable to the electrical box and run it to the electrical box at the town hall. After we do that, we are able to finally meet with everyone, and they are still worried because apparently a different beast showed up earlier and was the reason that the power went out at the town hall in the first place. And this kind of alludes to the other test subject that was the reason for the lab going to chaos and how we were able to escape. So they had to make preparations to make sure that they are safe from the beast. At the end of this conversation, we complete the quest and get the next story trophy here. Shortly after completing the main mission, I was rewarded with a weapon mod blueprint, and they put me through the tutorial about how I was able to install the mod, and when I did do that, I got a trophy for installing my first one. Next, we had to go talk to Jacob again, who sent us on a hunt to track down the beast's trail while it's still fresh. This has us going throughout the city, and later on we end up at the train tunnel. In the tunnel, we see one of the GRE trucks and a bunch of soldiers, some dead and others on the verge. One began to warn us about the beast that was still here, and shortly after, we saw another one of the soldiers get grabbed inside of the truck. The beast pounces on Kyle, but stops as he sees who he jumped on, but before anything else could happen, the soldier decided to do one last sacrifice and throw a grenade at the beast. Before the nade went off though, the beast threw us out of the room, protecting us from the explosion before the screen went black. When Kyle wakes up, he gets a transmission from Jacob telling Kyle to return because there is something else he needs help with. Shortly after, Kyle sees a volatile, which is the cracked out zombie I was talking about earlier, and our best move right now is to run, which is what we did until we made it out of the tunnel because it was broad daylight, and also the UV light from one of the GRE trucks was facing into the tunnel, keeping the volatiles at bay. After we made it out, we radioed to Olivia to tell her about our run-in with the beast, and she also told us to meet her back at the monastery as she needed to speak with us on something. When we get back to Olivia, she takes the blood sample from the second chimera that we killed to analyze the connection between Kyle and the chimeras and why the GSB is able to enhance Kyle. Olivia also gives the next location of another chimera that the Baron released into the wild to research on, so we head over to that area next. On my way there, I got a trophy along the way, and that was a combat trophy, and that was to kill an enemy using a dropkick skill. The hunt took us to this clouded swampy island in the middle of a lake, and the chimera wasn't as large as the two that we fought before. This one was a smaller, more agile one with hands that can pierce, and it also ran around a lot, so that got annoying at times too. At the end of the fight, we just collected the GSB and moved on to the next mission. Also, I'm just now gonna amend this into here. I ended up getting another trophy during the fight. The requirement for the trophy was to run 10,000 meters in the game. After that, we finally went back to the town hall to meet with Jacob and the sheriff after they called Kyle back. They sent him to see if he can go to this power plant and get the thing started back up again so that the power can run through the city so that the survivors can have a fighting chance to keep the town hall. We go ahead and make our way through the plant and repair and flip all the switches that were needed to get the power plant up and running. We also learned from the guy that was supposed to be operating the plant that the Baron was the one that shut it down, and right when we turned on the power and told the sheriff on the radio, the Baron's men pulled up, and so we said we were going to defend the plant, but the sheriff was against it because she wanted to not go to war with the Baron. But obviously Kyle isn't going to listen to her, so we go ahead and clear out all the soldiers and get back to the town hall to talk to the sheriff because she is not happy. In our meeting, sheriff isn't happy that we're trying to start a war and that we should focus on rebuilding the town hall, but Kyle made a convincing argument that we can do that and also keep an eye on the Baron and stock up, recruit allies, and plan a way to take him down. Jacob agreed with us, but the sheriff is still hesitant, but for now she told Kyle to start helping around with the town hall to prepare. At the end of this mission, I got another story trophy. Right here, I did a bit of side quest and a little bit of exploring just to get up to the recommended level that the next mission told me to get to, and I went back to that mission. This one had us tracking down a new strain that Olivia told us about because it could lead us to a new chimera, but while I was doing that, I ended up near a giant monument, and if I climbed up to the very top of the thing, I get a trophy here. After the monument, we had to go through E&F plant. Don't ask me what it is, I have no clue. But that is where the Baron was having some sort of operation that involves this gas that he was using on the infected. We ended up needing that gas and taking it to a nearby junkyard to lure the chimera over there. These canisters will play a role throughout most of the chimera hunts later as well. The chimera was another giant berserker type of chimera called the Behemoth, and we just went ahead and fought him and collected the GSB from the chimera to gain another skill point. After we collected the blood sample, we make our way back to Olivia to deliver the sample and also get the location of the next chimera. Once we leave the monastery, we get a call from the sheriff, and she says that we have to meet up with her at the local mine. When we show up there, we see that the Baron's men are already all over the place, so we sneak inside to see what they are up to. When we get to almost the center of the mine, we try to radio in what we found to the sheriff, but she shows up in person to reveal that she was colluding with the Baron because she thought it was the best way to protect her people. Next, while we were surrounded by the Baron's men and the Baron pulls up for some rage bait talk, Kyle went and opened up the cage that they had in the mine, which released the beast from the train tunnel earlier and creates chaos. After that, the Baron grabs a grenade launcher and blows up the rocks that were above Kyle and cut off the access between the Baron and his men to Kyle. After we recover from the explosion, we rush out of the mine to go and confront the sheriff at the town hall, but when we pull up, Jacob says she rushed in here, grabbed some stuff, and dipped. Kyle explains to Jacob everything that happened and also tells him that he's in charge now and that they need to keep going with the plan to take out the Baron. Kyle also vows that the sheriff is on that hit list too now, which is honestly deserved. When Kyle was asking Jacob for any intel on the Baron, he was directed to a group of people that the sheriff exiled. This was mainly because they were all infected but never turned, so they still had their sanity. The Baron had some of them in his lab too before they got out, so they would have the intel. After talking with Jacob though and we finish up the mission, we got another story trophy. As we are making our way to the cave that the exiled are hiding at, we get contacted telepathically by one of the exiled, as that is a power that some of them have, or maybe all of them, I'm not too sure. They want us to meet at a farm to explain everything and to probably play it safe. As we got nearer to the farm though, the stranger switched the meeting location again as the Baron's men were also there, so we had to go over to where he was at and help him clear out the soldiers. With the soldiers gone, we were finally able to meet with the stranger whose name turned out to be Sven. Sven and the other exiled are willing to help Kyle out with taking down the Baron, but he asked for a favor first before anything. The request was to find some missing members that were scouting but failed to meet up with Sven at the farm we were supposed to be originally at. When we get to the place that the scouts usually set up at, we find clues that directed us to the outpost, so when we head over there and clear out that outpost, one of the soldiers' radios went off talking about how they captured the duo that they were looking for at a pig farm nearby. So we make our way to that farm and we see that the two are being transported off by some of the soldiers, and we can't follow them without dealing with the other soldiers here first. So we fight them off while waiting for Sven, who is locating where the two are going. After all this, we make our way to the scouts to free them, but they don't look so good, and when we tell Sven, he tells us to rush back to the cave as they might turn. So we get to the truck, and now I'm timed as I have to rush back to the cave, just barely making it to the cave in time for the scouts to be saved. We finish up the hectic mission and finally meet the leader of the exiled group, Lydia. When we meet Lydia, she doesn't want to get the group involved after everything we've done, and she told us to leave. After that, Sven truly did want to help Kyle on this matter, so he introduced Kyle to Selby, who had this idea of intercepting all of the radio transmissions between the Baron soldiers. We had to take some of the transmitters from one of their convoys and install them around the map at various towers so it can cover the entire valley. After we gained access to their comms, we found out that at that moment, they were planting bombs in the tunnels underneath the town hall as they were trying to take out the survivor group there. We didn't have much time, so we rushed down there to take out all the soldiers and defuse the bombs just in time to save everyone. This ends this mission, and our next one has us going to meet back up with Olivia as she has some new info on our next chimera. We end up having to meet Olivia at the national park on the bottom part of our map because that was the next chimera's stopping ground. At the park, they have another gas lure machine, so we load it up with another canister and get ready for the boss fight. This one was similar to the mist chimera that we fought earlier, with it being skinny and smaller than the giant ones from before, and this also jumped around a lot. This one, they would also throw toxic at you, which also can get annoying, but when we finally defeated him and collected the GSB, we went back to Olivia to talk about the chimera, and then shortly after, Lydia, the one who is the leader of the exiles, was with Sven and contacted us, which takes us into our next story mission. When we talk with Lydia and Sven, they tell us that the Baron's men were conducting experiments at a nearby school and have been hit by some bandits. They said this is a perfect opportunity to sneak in and see what they have been doing. Lydia finally decided to help after she heard about what we did with the comms, so she sent out a scout to check out the school before getting in contact with Kyle, and now we had to go meet with that scout. Once we met with the scout, who was sitting outside of the school inside a bus, we begin our journey through the school. Inside, we find that most of the school is filled with infected until we get to the school gym, where they have all their equipment for their research. Only instead of finding soldiers, we find bandits, and we hurry and clear out all the bandits so that we can safely grab all the research info that we can get. At one point when I unlocked the door, Kyle found a scientist who hid himself so that the bandits wouldn't find him. Kyle radios in that he found a scientist and that we are going to bring him back to the cave so that Lydia can question him. The problem we're at now is that the only ways out of the school are through the bandits that are patrolling outside or going underground where it's filled with infected. Kyle opts for the underground route, so we go ahead and clear the underground to safely escort the scientist to the scout and get him to a safe place until we give the research to Lydia and explain about the scientist. When we talk to Lydia after handing the research over, we go back out looking for the scientist and our scout as they haven't returned. We begin tracing where the scout went in the truck, but when we find the truck, it had been in an accident and that the scout didn't survive the crash. So our next plan is to go look for the scientist, who was in a nearby house and had locked himself in one of the rooms that had infected attacking the door to get in. After clearing out the infected and getting to the scientist, Kyle gets in contact with Lydia, and shortly after, Lydia will show up to pick up the scientist and we end the mission here. Next up, we get in contact with Olivia, who sends us back out for what seems to be the daily chimera hunt. As we go to the map's industrial zone, where the chimera was hiding in a brick factory. This chimera was called the Matriarch. I don't know the lore behind this one being called that, so yeah, but it was another small one hopping around, except for whenever it would bounce from the fight to hide for a little bit and to also try to catch me off guard. it would leave a cloud of smoke and summon other infected to distract. The boss fight flew pretty quick, and after defeating it and collecting the sample, we went back to the monastery. When we were talking with Olivia, she dug up some research about this blue mist that was used to calm down and sedate the infected, which was the opposite effect when comparing to the red mist in those canisters we used earlier. Kyle talks about how he saw the blue mist used in Haran when the outbreak first started, and Olivia also says here that her father was one of the first that did research on the blue mist. We also learn about her father being forced into slave labor under the Baron, and that she was hoping that Kyle could help break her father out and they could escape from the Baron. After this conversation ends, we end the mission and it's back to the exiles. Also, this is a huge break between trophies, and I'm honestly surprised now going back through this game's story that there aren't more story trophies than the ones they have right now. When we go back to meet with Lydia and the scientists, they have a theory on how to control the infected, which could be what they need to take down the Baron. The only problem in having to test this theory is that someone has to go into a volatile hive nest and harvest 3 larva samples from the volatiles in there so that the scientists can craft the serum needed so that they can try this experiment. And obviously they are going to send out Kyle to do this. Once I was making my way through the cave to get to the nest, we ran into another chimera called Wraith, and this is probably one of the coolest chimera out of all the ones we've seen so far. It was built like a volatile, but had the ability to go invisible, which is insane, and then also had this blue accent to it. We had to go around and keep attacking until it disappeared and then find them again and do the same thing over again. But once we were able to take out the Wraith, we collected the chimera sample and moved on. When we made it inside the nest is when things go even more intense, as I had to sneak around the roaming volatile to get to the other volatiles that were connected to the hive and collect the larva. I didn't really want to sneak around like that with this volatile, and I thought that if I can take out that Wraith chimera, which is essentially another volatile, then I can take out this one too. So I went ahead and fought the volatile and was able to kill it. This was also our first official volatile kill, and right here is when we can finally add another trophy after what felt like forever. After taking out the volatile, I went ahead and collected all of the samples and got ready to leave. When we were leaving the hive though, the rest of the volatiles connected to that nest were signaled and gathered on Kyle. We had to run like hell as it started another chase, which we were able to make it out of the cave just in time before the volatiles could get us. After we escape, we reach out to Lydia telepathically again to update her and that we were on our way back to the Exiles cave to turn in the samples. After I returned to the cave and turned in the samples, we had to go meet with Olivia, who was nearby, because she had more information on another chimera, and also we had to give her the sample of the Wraith chimera that we killed earlier. We meet Olivia at a water treatment plant a little down the road from the Exiles cave. After meeting with her and turning in that sample, we start our search throughout the plant, and shortly after a few minutes of searching, we were able to find Colossus. Colossus had a lot of similarities to the behemoth that we fought earlier, where it would stomp on the ground to knock you back, and later in the fight, he will attack these toxic barrels in the arena to give him a shield. But after we defeated the chimera, we actually got 5 B skill points, which were the rest I needed for the tree, and when you unlock everything in that B skill tree, you unlock a trophy for it as well. This was also the last chimera to defeat in the game, so now we can start getting ready for the big fight with the Baron. Next up in the story, we had to go meet with Lydia, who was right outside a mental asylum. Also, I don't know what the zombie's doing right here, but she tells us how she had the first injection of the test serum, and now she wants to test it while we have to sneak into this mental asylum to get the drugs that's inside the storage room so that Lydia can use it to reach her full potential with the new power. So when we get closer to the asylum, we see that Lydia's power is actually working and that we are getting past the infected without them attacking us. The only problem is if we make contact with any of the infected, then that control that Lydia has will be lost, so we'll have to be careful here. And this actually turned out to be a pretty spooky mission, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of Outlast, which I will never play that game for a platinum trophy, so please do not ask if you ever do. That will never be on the list. Yes, I'm a But I made my way throughout the asylum, and when I got inside the medical room and grabbed the drugs, sirens in the asylum started going off, and all of the affected snapped out of Lydia's control and were on a chase for us. So we had to escape again by jumping throughout one of the second story windows. When we make it outside, the chase still isn't over for us as it is nighttime, so I just ran to one of the safe zones and time skipped throughout the night so I wouldn't have to worry about the chase anymore. Once it's daytime, we make it back to Lydia and the scientists who are just outside of the town hall, and during During our conversation, we got a call from one of the survivors from the town hall calling for help as they are being attacked by the Baron's men. When we show up, we see that they have set up one of the red mist canisters dispensers outside the gate to attract the infected so that they can break down the gate. So we end up on a timer to hurry and take out all of the Baron's soldiers and then quickly turn off the device. But even when we finish disabling the device, we see that the soldiers are shooting smaller mist nades from mortars around the city. So again, I have to rush throughout the city to destroy every one of them that they have set up to finally stop them making things worse. After we take out the mortars though, we see that they were able to attract 2 chimeras at once, which set us up for another crazy boss fight as we had to fight both of them at once. But with our fully upgraded beast powers and Lydia's full power to control and distract one of the chimeras at a time, we were able to take down the chimeras and stop the attack. After the attack is done, we talk with the sheriff, who decided to show her face to try to make her case about why she betrayed Kyle from before and how she screwed up. Shortly after, Lydia pulls up and starts to make the sheriff feel even worse for her actions as she found out that the exiles are alive and still thriving, but they agree in the end that they all need to work together to take down the Baron. And that's when Kyle tells them that the Baron has been obsessed with the beast that has been causing havoc while the soldiers have been trying to catch it. So if we can catch the beast, then we can use it to lure the Baron out and take him down. With the exiles telepathy power and the red mist that the Baron has made, we can track the beast and lure it into a trap to finally catch it. At the end of the conversation, we complete the mission and we also get a trophy for the story mission. After going back to the E&F factory and getting 2 canisters, we made our way to the designated spot for the trap, which ended up being inside a cave that you can easily cut off any exit to leave. Now with the trap set up and the red mist going, we were able to lure the beast in and we've got to fight him. This whole fight was mainly just about weakening him until Lydia could get the beast's human side back. Shortly after, when we stopped the beast, we just loaded him into the truck and they took off, and that was pretty much it for that mission. We also got a story trophy here. Finally, we're at the point that we've been building up to this whole time. With the beast captured, allies recruited, all that chimera blood pumped into Kyle, and a whole bunch of new tech and equipment that we got, we can finally start our attack on the Baron. But first, we had to go check on the beast at the exile's cave. Lydia uses her powers to wake him up, and when he finally wakes up, the beast turns out to be none other than Aiden from the second game. Turns out Aiden, alongside his and Kyle's mutual friend Spike, tried to save Kyle, but obviously that didn't work out, and now the Baron still has Spike as his prisoner. Shortly after, the Baron contacts Crane through the radio to tell him that he has Olivia captured and that if he doesn't want anything to happen to her or to Spike, then he needs to bring Aiden to his castle to trade. But Kyle wasn't going to let that happen, and they rest one last time before the big siege on the castle. While Kyle was resting though, Aiden ran off to turn himself in, so we had to move now to save everyone. Going through the castle was a cool stealth mission that we had to do where we climb our way up, and then on top of the walls were sharpshooters. So we had to take them out so that they wouldn't take out any of our guys, and then at the end of this part we had to open up the gates to let everyone in, and also so Lydia can use her powers to call the infected in and help distract the soldiers. This would make it so that Kyle can go into the castle and chase down the Baron. We work our way inside to take out any of the soldiers and end up going down the elevator through the complex and found Aiden in one of the rooms, and when we tried freeing him, Olivia shows up and closes the door on Kyle, locking him in and betraying Kyle in the end. Shortly after, Kyle passes out from the knockout gas that was put into the room. Kyle wakes up strapped at the dining table with everyone in his group captured as they are all gassed too, and Spike is also with them. Shortly after, the Baron pulls up with Olivia, and sets her down too. And this is where the Baron tells them that Olivia was setting them up the whole time, and also that he was planning this the whole time too, to test Kyle and Aiden's blood that can resist infections, and if he combines that with what they've been using on the chimeras, it creates something crazy. Right after, the Baron says he has no more need for Spike and ends up killing him. And then after he knocks Lydia out because she used her power to try to stop him, as the Baron has some of the virus in him now and he's reactive to the power. Then after the scientist that's been helping us this whole time dies too. Right before the Baron kills Lydia though, Judas or Olivia tries to talk the Baron out of it, but the Baron ended up telling her to kill Kyle to prove her loyalty. Shortly after, Olivia tries to explain why she did what she did and then tried to shoot the Baron, but the gun was empty and that didn't work out. As the Baron was about to kill Olivia, Lydia wakes up and uses her power once again to distract the Baron, in which gives Olivia time to stab the Baron and then free everyone. But the Baron injects himself with something and then decides to leave. With all the chaos happening, Aiden takes out the soldiers and Kyle follows suit. and then the two go after the Baron. After getting all of our equipment back, we head out onto the rooftop where the Baron, Kyle, and Aiden have their final battle. We have this whole shootout with Baron and some of his soldiers, and when we get about 3/4 of the way through his health bar, Aiden takes off to help Olivia and the rest of the group as the soldiers are after them. This leaves a one-on-one between Kyle and the Baron, but when we thought we beat him, the Baron turns himself into a freaking chimera. He was basically a blend of most of the chimeras we faced. He had the size, the strength, the speed, and could also spit acid, but still, that wasn't enough for our boy Kyle, as he starts throwing hands at the end and then drop kicks him off of the roof, and the Baron has a short fall onto one of the cliffs. Kyle decides to finish the job by grabbing a broken metal pole and jumping off the roof like it's some WWE wrestling match and stabs the Baron, killing him once and for all. After Kyle gets back to the rooftop, he talks with Olivia on the radio, telling her that the Baron is dead and that it's over. She says that the valley can finally have a fresh start, but the price was the good people that was lost along the way. And shortly after, she cuts out as a helicopter pulls up, and then on Kyle's radio was one of the GRE scientists that was from the first game. She says on the radio that the GRE were just in hiding but have always been around and to enjoy the freedom that Kyle has earned, but Kyle isn't going to let them go, which possibly leaves the door open for a future in another game. And this is also the end of the game here. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if this was common knowledge and I'm just a or if other people didn't catch on to it either and I wasn't the only one, but I had to look up what happened to Olivia after this scene because I was kinda confused. But it makes sense to me now, as someone said that she was on the helicopter and was actually, what would it be now? Triple agent? She was undercover for the GRE against the Baron, and then in the story was undercover for the Baron against Kyle, but then flipped. Yeah, she was scheming this entire time, but it made sense to me. Thank goodness Google is free. But yeah, with the main story over, we get a trophy for the completion. Now with the main story out of the way, I can finally move on to the trophy cleanup, and all of these can be done while working towards 3 main trophies that will take the longest. Those 3 being finding all collectibles, completing all of the side quests, and the main one being upgrading all blueprints to their maximum rank. The first one I did want to get out of the way because I didn't know if it was going to be difficult or not, and it was to get 500 kills in a vehicle. I would just find one truck and then drive it to another car while just literally hitting any zombie I could, and I was finally able to get this trophy after some time. After that, I went through all of the save zones and these transformer stations that would power up the traps that you could activate around the map. A trophy would pop up from activating all of each of the respective groups. I also forgot to record me getting that trophy for the transformer station because I was saving space on my hard drive, but here's the clip from PlayStation. After that, I was running around hunting for materials. I got a trophy for getting 666 kills while in beast mode. That's a spooky number. Finally, after some time, I got all the skill points to unlock the whole skill tree, and this came with a trophy. Next one I decided to tackle was one of the side quest trophies, mainly because clearing through all of this guy's side quests unlocks a blueprint that was needed for the other trophy from earlier about upgrading all of the blueprints. But you had to go through these races for a guy named Travis who was letting people bet on if you would either clear it in time or die from crashing or the zombies get to you. And when you clear all of his races is when you get the trophy for it. The next one was a combat trophy, and it requires a revolver in this game. You needed to get 6 kills in under 20 seconds for it to pop. Finally, after I don't even know how many days, I finally got all the blueprints that would count and upgraded them to the max to get the craftsman trophies. Next up, I cleared all of the side quests, mainly did them off screen to save some storage, but I completed the trophy when I got my last one. I went ahead after this to get all of the collectibles, and along the way I got 4 other trophies that were tied to certain collectibles. The first one was for getting all the reports and recordings of the secrets about the mental asylum we snuck into during the story. The next one was for finding these beaver statues that would be around the map. The third one was for collecting these newspaper clippings about this Fisher family. And the fourth one was for collecting all of these podcast recordings for the show called Hidden Truths with Spark. After that, I just collected the rest to get the trophy for all of them. Finally, my last 2 trophies that I thought I would get earlier because they were combat trophies, but the first one was for repairing my weapon 30 times, which was easy because I could do it from my inventory, but I realized as my weapon got better that the less I'd be repairing it. So I just went ahead and did a little damage with the weapon and then immediately repaired it, which would count and definitely sped up the process. This next one I definitely forgot because I never used this weapon really, except for maybe one time in the story, but I needed to kill 112 enemies with a flamethrower, and it took me a minute because this thing burns through fuel extremely fast, but after like another 45 minutes, I was able to get the trophy here. There we go, another platinum trophy and my first one for 2026. Not a bad choice for my first platinum of the year, I'll say. The time wasn't bad either, as I was able to get this in about 54 hours of playtime. The game was probably my favorite one story-wise. I loved the side characters as much as I did from the second one. Plus having both Kyle and Aiden in the game was awesome too. And it seems like we could see more of them as a duo in the future. I would love for another game in the series where we get to alternate between the two and they have different chimera powers. Kinda like the Spider-Man 2 game that came out a few years ago. I will say that they always nail the parkour in these games, but man, if they can improve on the melee combat to give us unique fighting styles instead of seeing our weapons swing back and forth, this game could be tough to debate against for best zombies game ever in my opinion. I also really enjoyed the villain being the Baron. I do think it would have been awesome if he was teased in the early games, like if he was teased in 2 when you go through Aiden's flashbacks or something like that, but he was still a good villain to hate. But yeah, not much else I can say other than I hope they continue expanding this world and we get a 4th game. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more, then go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe for more videos I got coming. This year I have a few big games planned that I really want to get out for y'all. Also, if you guys want to add a game to the list, then go ahead and let me know down in the comments. Hope y'all have a blessed day, Togos, and I'll see y'all in the next one. See you.